All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful poem called A Plea for India. It kicks off with this huge declaration of national pride, but then, bam, it hits you with a devastating question. If we're so strong, then why are we tearing ourselves apart? It's a really raw look at the gap between a nation's ideal image and its painful reality. So, right out of the gate, the poem throws this massive contradiction at you. On one side, you've got this bold claim of strength, our roots cannot be shaken. But in the very next breath, it completely flips and asks this painful question. If we're so solid, why are we stuck in these fights that leave us in such a terrible mess? This clash right here sets the stage for everything we're about to unpack. And you gotta pay attention to the words here. They're so important. The poet doesn't just say the fights are bad. They use the word plight. Now, the source material defines this as a difficult or sad situation, but it's more than that, isn't it? Plight is a heavy word. It's loaded with a sense of suffering and real distress. It immediately makes you feel the human cost of all this conflict. Okay, so what is the reason for this poor plight? What's really going on here? Well, the poem doesn't just leave us hanging. It starts to peel back the layers and dig right into the roots of this division, pointing a finger at the very things that are tearing the nation apart. And the poem does not pull any punches. Its diagnosis is brutally honest. It talks about these huge systemic things like regionalism and the caste system, but then it also zooms right in on our own behaviors, the way we're always bickering or even seem to enjoy creating new problems instead of fixing the old ones. It's a really frank look in the mirror. I mean, this line right here, you can just feel the poet's frustration, can't you? It's like they're saying, come on, people. It's not just about the arguing itself. It's about the incredible waste. All this time, all this energy, just squandered on petty fights, when there is so much real work that needs to be done to build a better future. To really get what this poem is saying, we've got to look closely at the language. The choice of words is so deliberate, so powerful. And lucky for us, the source material actually gives us a little key to help unlock what some of these words really mean. Let's take that word, bickering. The definition is absolutely key. To argue about things that are not important. Now, that's a bold statement, isn't it? The poet isn't just describing disagreements. They're dismissing them, saying they're trivial and pointless when you look at the bigger picture. But this isn't just some abstract debate about politics. This is where the poem takes a dramatic turn. It shifts focus from the causes of all this division to the most devastating consequences. The deeply personal human cost. And it all boils down to this one simple, piercing question. It just cuts through all the noise, all the politics, and asks something so fundamental. Is any of this actually necessary? And that question just hangs in the air as the poem starts to show us the heartbreaking answers. And here's the first so-called answer. It's not a statistic, it's not a number, it's a mother who's lost her only son. The question is rhetorical, of course, because the real answer is just unbearable. No one can bring him back. And just like that, the conflict stops being a national issue and becomes an individual, irreversible tragedy. And it doesn't stop there. Right on the heels of that, we get another devastating image, the loss of a brother, and this grim, unfinished task of having to gather his ashes. It just compounds the grief, showing how a single act of violence ripples through a family, leaving these wounds that may never ever heal. So, after hitting us with these incredibly personal stories of loss, the poet kind of zooms out. They ask a much broader question. The loss isn't just about individual lives anymore. It's about something essential that's been lost from society itself. Love. Where did it all go? It's a lament for a lost sense of our shared humanity. So after painting this really bleak picture, you might think, wow, this is all just doom and gloom. But this is where the poem pivots again. It moves away from just questioning the world outside and starts demanding that we look inside. The focus shifts from blame to taking responsibility. Remember how this whole thing started? With that big, proud statement? Well, now the poem comes back and just completely dismantles it. It's basically asking, how can we possibly feel proud? How can we be on high cloud when this is our reality? The implication is crystal clear, that pride is totally unearned. And listen, this isn't just a gentle suggestion. This is an urgent warning, like a fire alarm going off. The poet is laying the stakes out very clearly. If we keep going down this path, the only destination is misery. The time for brushing it off is over. We have to think seriously. This right here is the consequence of doing nothing. Instead of pride, the poet argues that the only honest, appropriate response to all the violence should be shame. It's a call to replace that blind pride with a humble, painful acknowledgement of a massive collective failure. But here's the thing. It doesn't leave us in that dark place. Just when you think it's all despair, the poem pivots one last time. It's not just about pointing out what's wrong, it's about offering a clear, powerful path forward. And that path is all about unity.
And this line? This is the absolute core of the solution. The poet is saying, wait a minute, we're fighting the wrong battle. We're fighting each other. The real fight, the one that matters, is a united one against the people who are actively fanning the flames of hate.
And again, the poet is so precise with their language. The real enemy is anyone who incites. So what does that mean? The glossary tells us it means encouraging violence by deliberately making people angry. So the enemy isn't a specific group of people. It's the very act of provoking hatred itself. So what's the game plan? The poet actually lays out a simple 4-step guide. It sounds pretty straightforward, right? First, get together, unite. Second, fight the real enemy, the people who incite, not each other. Third, refuse to be led astray. And finally, the simple secret ingredient that makes it all work. Just a bit of dedication. And this is where it all comes full circle. We're right back to that idea of being a strong nation, but now it means something completely different. It's not just an empty brag anymore. It's a reminder of what's truly possible, of the potential that's just waiting to be unlocked, if we just put in the work. So the poem leaves us with this final echoing question. It's not asking if we can win this fight for peace, it's stating it as a fact. We have the power. The real question is about our will. Why do we let this din, this loud, awful, constant noise of conflict keep going? And that, well, that's a question the poet leaves for every single one of us to answer for ourselves.